Hi everyone, Carmel Sullivan here, Heart to Heart Medium. I got inspired to invite my friend John Rapptis here to talk sponges and resiliency. And when life gives you a kick down and a knockout, that you have to get up, brush yourself off, and move forward and find another way to be successful. So we're going to talk sea sponges and how John changed my life. And John is a builder. Little development, was that right?
Yeah, we do development.
Yeah, and so I've known John since the 90s, the 80s?
Early 90s through Ray.
Maybe the 80s even,
No,
yeah.
no, it was the 90s through Ray.
90s, through Ray, from
Yeah.
Sacramento days. So we moved here in 92, and John, did you move in 92 or before?
I was commuting for like a year. We're looking at real estate with Ray back and forth from Sacramento. So I think we ended up actually moving in
At the
93.
same time.
Early
Yeah.
93 we moved here.
Yeah, and we moved
Finally,
here in 92.
I knew two people. The broker I bought a piece of property from, and Ray.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody lived here in this town, but it's been a long time.
Isn't that weird? So Ray's my other half, I call him. And so with that, we both experienced a downturn in 2007. Because if you remember what happened in 2000, was it 2007 or 9? I keep forgetting.
It was it depends where you were, but it was a wind down like from 07 to 9, 10.
But
you know,
it was ugly.
Not to back up, but it was all good up until then, right? When I got here in 93, it was a good run.
Well, it's funny because people shift when things need to be shifted, and Sacramento was a little dried up. And we came here thinking there was opportunity, which there was, and you followed suit because
that's what it is.
Ray was tied to the Greek community. John's Greek, and if you sell sponges, you either have to know a Greek or you have to be Greek, is what they say.
The sponge business is, that's a unique business in itself.
Oh, I will tell you.
Real estate, everybody's in real estate. There's builders and developers, and you go broke, then you make money, then you go broke again. But at that time, the sponge. If we're going to talk about the sponge business, that was it. It's such a unique business. Of course, not for me because I grew up in the town where it was a whole city that was built on the sponge industry, which no one can really grasp.
And it's funny because in 2009, I had, we both kind of went bust. You lived down the street from us. You and Carrie lived down the street, and we both kind of lost our houses and the world. But that was okay because you know what I found out through that bust is who I really was.
Yeah.
And I heard, this is the funniest thing because I was always looking for something to grow, and I was looking for something I could put my passion into. And I heard a rumor. John Rapptis was selling sponges across the country. And I'm like, what is he doing? And this guy builds beautiful homes. He's, always thinking about the next deal, I feel like you are. And you're always a mover and shaker in my mind. So here I am hearing that he's selling sponges. I go, I got to know about the sponges. So I ran into you one day and said, John, I need to know about those sponges you're selling. And you were back into the building business. You had moved back home, or I call this home, by the way. And you had lit up and said, have me over for dinner. Let's talk.
Oh, okay.
And you brought all your sponges with you. And that's where we started. So tell me about your background on the sponge business.
And the sponge business? Well, the sponge business, it evolved, right? So when things were winding down, so to speak, in the real estate business, because I had a project in Sacramento, I had one in Colorado Springs, I was commuting back and forth, and I was going through all these challenges with the banks and the industry. So what had happened, first I got into the snack food business.
I remember that.
So all of a sudden I go, the real estate business is going to die. It's going to get ugly. And I said, I'm going to create a new industry, a new business. So I was at the house.
A shift.
Yeah. So to go full circle on the story. So I was at the house in Kissing Camels, and I was grinding up nuts and oats, and I was making these bars. And I took them to my friend who was losing his house also, and my real estate buddy, John, up in Denver. And I was making these bars. I said, hey, I'm going to start a new company. I'm going to try to raise some money to do this deal. So his wife, Tamara, she said, you know what? I went to school with a guy who's in the natural food business. You need to go meet him. I dated him. He's in Boulder. So I went up there to see this guy named John Maggio. Well, John Maggio and his brother, they created Boulder Chips 30 years ago.
Damn.
Right? And he stayed in the natural food industry. And John Maggio, he knew everybody.
Okay.
He did Izzy's. He did Justice Nut Butter. I mean, the people I met through John. So anyway, I was doing this energy bar or whatever it was.
You're being your creative self.
Right. So he was showing me how to go through the industry and what he needed to do that. At the same time, though, I was telling you earlier, he had a company he was just trying to launch. It's called Clementine, and it was natural. It was like the natural version of Crayola or crayons.
Okay.
Right? It was like you could eat it. It was made out of soy, and it was the crayons, and he had them going, and everything John did was national. So it was already in Target. He was launching it. So he was trying to do everything natural within this kit he had. And I'm doing the snacks. We're talking. He goes, I need a sponge. He goes, I said, I gotta line up some sponges because I really want to get a natural sponge to put in this kit.
Oh my
So
God.
about the same time I'm doing the snack, I went down to Tarpon Springs.
Where he grew up.
So Tarpon Springs, to go way back, this city was developed on the sponge industry, which no one thought there was a sponge industry. But in the 1900s, there was a sponge industry, right? Only because there weren't synthetic sponges. So they've been using sponges in the Mediterranean, before days of Christ. So anyway, Tarpon Springs, they discovered sponges in the 1900s in the Gulf of Mexico. My dad was a Greek priest there. I grew up in Tarpon Springs. So anyway, I go down there to find John some sponges. He wanted some little pieces of sponges
like
to put in his art
Mediterranean
kit.
silks.
So I went down there, got some sponges, came back, he put them in his art kit. We were in a few sponges here and there. And then the real estate died. The
Yeah.
house was gone.
Yeah.
The project was gone. Project
Yeah.
number 2 was gone. House number 2 was gone in Sacramento. So everything started melting down. And the snack food was actually going good. So we had the snack food company. And that was growing. And then I started getting into real estate. And I started getting into real estate about that time. My son went off to school. So Cos went to school. So she had nothing to do. Right?
So you needed to keep her busy.
So hey, Carrie, what are you going to do now? I'm going to try to do some real estate. Of course, I was commuting
Right.
from Sacramento. I'm doing fix and flips in Sacramento and Phoenix.
I remember that,
I was in
actually.
Phoenix. We're doing
Ray
stuff.
was
Ray
doing
was in Phoenix.
Phoenix,
I was
yeah.
in Phoenix doing fix and flips. Sacramento, Denver, back and forth doing real estate. And then Carrie needed something to do. So I went down to Tarpon Springs. And I went, for whatever, I had a bunch of cash, took some cash down there with me. And my buddy, Bill, he was a sponge diver. And his grandfather's in the sponge business. This is a whole generation of sponge diving,
Right.
which is really unique industry to begin with. So I go down there and said, hey, I need to buy these sponges. He goes, I can't sell them to you because there's a protocol. There's only so many buyers in boats. If you buy them, I got to hide them. Anyway, I said, hey, here's like 20 grand. I need to buy all the sponges on your boat. So sure enough, I bought all these sponges.
That's called a boatload of sponges.
I bought literally a boatload. And they were whatever, different species of sponges. And I brought them back. I shipped them back here to Colorado. And this guy, the Greek guy, taught me how to process them. So I got all these sponges at the house.
Tell them how you process them. Because they're
the
going to say, what do you mean process?
Yeah, it's a chemical bath. You put them in. And you process them
Peroxide,
only
kind
to
of.
make them look marketable. They have more of a curb appeal.
Right.
You bleach them out because when they come out of the ocean, they're really dark and they got shells and crabs and
You gotta clean
sand and all kinds of stuff live in these, these sponges in the bottom of the ocean. So anyway, you had to learn how to process them. So one of the guys I bought sponges from, he told me how to process them. So now I bring literally 10,000 sponges I have in my garage. And I start processing these sponges. At the same time, we're taking the snack food and we're doing demos up in Cherry Creek at the farmer's market.
Yeah.
Right? So we're going to these farmers markets doing demos, the snacks. We're trying to get the snack. It was called
Business
Snack
going.
'em Out. Trying to get the snack with some momentum. So we're doing demos at farmers markets. So I'm at these farmers markets, which is pretty much open air retail.
Open air fun.
Open
Yeah.
air retail. You set up a tent. You give them $100, $200. You set up for the day, and we were just doing demos. We weren't there trying to
Just
create
to
any
kind of
revenue.
build that.
We're handing stuff out for free. We weren't selling anything.
Really?
We're handing out snacks to build the brand.
Right.
To build the brand. Okay. Then at some point, winter came, and then the farmers markets they shut down.
Yeah.
In Colorado, they shut down. So then they said, hey, we're going to do some farmers markets out in California because they're open year round because
Right.
of the weather. At the same time, we started selling. So I told Carrie, let's take the sponges to the farmers market.
Yeah.
Why not? We need some revenue. That's what it came down to. We needed a business. The real estate was done. We'd had no cash, very little cash, very little credit. Nobody was building anything.
No.
Nobody was hiring
It was dead
anybody.
as a doorknob. You
So I
couldn't
was like,
get.
what am I
yeah.
going to do? Okay, you know what? I'm going to go get these sponges. And there was good margin in them, right? Good markup. So we went down there and we started selling these sponges at the farmer's market, just like that. And they're such a unique product. And it was natural, sustainable, and all the buzzwords.
When we say
you know.
sustainable, the sponges, when they're actually taken from the sea, they're actually cut 5 inches above the stalk line, angle cut. And with that angle cut, what happens is they grow 5 times bigger, twice
They
as
regenerate.
fast.
So a sponge regenerates, a sea sponge.
Yeah.
So they harvest them, they cut them off the ground. So people were into that. It's just sustainable and it's natural and it's fireproof and all this. And everybody's like, they've been around for hundreds, thousands of years.
Right.
So you take them to a farmer's market and people are like, what are these? Where'd you get these? And you know what? You start selling stuff. You're selling there, you kind of get the cash.
It is
And there
so
was one
much
thing-
fun. It is so much fun when you're doing
so,
it.
So when the market shut down here in Denver, the farmers markets,
Yeah.
then we had family in California. Said, hey, we're going to go to California. That's the only thing it wasn't out of choice.
But it
out
was
of
a smart
necessity.
move, actually.
So we had
'cause,
nowhere to
yeah.
go. I looked at farmers markets in Vegas. I went to the ones in Phoenix. And in LA, there was like 10 markets a week or a day, all in such a big area. So I said, hey, we're going to move to California because that's our business. That was our business, selling sponges. And it was sponges, and then it became seashells. I had a friend in Florida, and he was like the second biggest importer of seashells
Wow.
in the country.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Georgie. He had a company in the Philippines, so he's
Wow.
been bringing in seashells since the 70s.
I had no idea because
He's like
I was selling a few from you, but I didn't know that you had a line.
I used to bring in giant clams until they became endangered species, and coral and shells and shark teeth and all kinds of stuff. So we're added. It wasn't just sponges.
Just adding,
We started with sponges, and then it was some seashells, and then it was the soaps and some chamois and all these other natural products that we had access to.
Yeah.
Because it was part of the theme for the booth.
Yeah.
And now we're down in LA, and we're doing.
Kick ass.
Yeah, so I got a minivan. Carrie's got a minivan. I'm living at my sister's house. She's living at her sister-in-law's house, and we're sitting there and we're just getting our little minivan every day, hitting a farmer's market. I'm doing one here. I'm going to Calabasas. She's going to Hollywood. She's going to Malibu. I'm going to Orange County, and we're living out of these minivans. And then I had to go back to Vegas because my parents were in Vegas, and that's where I started processing them. In their backyard. I had 10 vats.
I have to laugh because John gave me a picture of all these sponges laying all over this like front of your house. So I always would put it up to people and go, what do you call this? And people go, I don't know. I go, SpongeBob Family Reunion.
There you go.
I thought that was always funny.
Because you got him to give them to dry out.
Yeah, you got to dry them out once you process them.
Yeah, so you process them. So anyway, so I'd be back and forth. Vegas, LA, Vegas, LA. Then some real estate up in Sacramento, some real estate in California. I was running ragged for 4 or 5 years doing this business.
Well, and you were an urban legend in my mind because I asked Ray, what's John doing nowadays? I think he's selling sponges.
Can you believe it? I know.
And he didn't understand it because no one understands a sponge until you had a sea sponge in your hand and been explained to because not most people in Colorado.
Yeah.
What?
So the second part of the deal was, so you go to these farmers markets, and you were worth millions of dollars. You had all these houses. You back up a minivan, and you open up your tent, and you used to be this guy, right, doing all this real estate, and now you're this guy selling sponges in LA, and that's where you got to be good with yourself. You got to have a lot of self-confidence. You got to say, okay, I used to do this. I'm not going to sit there and cry. It's not going to fix anything. I'm going to open up my tent, and I'm going to sit there and make $200 a day, $250 a day, $100 a day, whatever I can make. And that was it. And guess what? Everybody next to me had the same story. Everybody at those farmers markets, they weren't there because they wanted to be there. They were there because
they needed to be.
He was a mortgage broker. He went broke. He was an insurance guy. They went out of business. She was doing this. I mean, everybody in line down there selling products had the same sad story. Literally, it was a recession. Besides the guy selling produce, vegetables and all that, and flowers, everybody, I'm making jewelry, and this guy's making jewelry, and I'm selling sponges. And
I call it resiliency in my
cat
life.
food, and she's doing dog clothes, and oh my God, everybody and you see them every day. It's like a cult. And you do it, hey, you go to
It
here.
is true.
It is.
It's a
cult.
family. It's a
and you're
family,
like, hey,
too.
I'm going here. And then you go to the farmer's market. Of course, in LA, it was kind of unique because there's all these movie stars there and there's a lot of wealth. So the fun part is, you can see every now and then movie star would roll through,
Buys a big old
buy a bunch of
sponge,
stuff,
yeah.
or you're doing a show in Malibu or Hermosa Beach. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't tell you the guys I've sold sponges to at Malibu and
Well,
Hermosa Beach. I mean, all these movie
it's
stars.
such a rarity to see a
And you-
natural sea sponge
And you're
outside
talking
of
to
tarpon.
these, yeah, and they're like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
I-
anyway, but everybody had the same story, and to the point where at some point, eventually, the real estate market came back, and I
Yeah.
was able to get some things together and some investors and kind of turn
And
the
you
corner.
came back
But I still
here.
love the sponge industry. Yeah, because I was doing stuff here in Colorado Springs, and Carrie, my ex-wife, she's still doing it in LA. Works 2 days a week, but she was set up at the Grove.
Oh.
So she was at the Grove in
Yeah.
LA.
That's kind of like the she place to be.
Oh, that's the holy grail. So
Yeah.
when you get to the Grove in LA, you're right there at CBS Studios, and they're dropping off busloads of people.
Oh. Kicking ass, taking names.
Tourists from Japan and from China and sponge. They load up everybody, and the money wasn't an object there. And you had a little kiosk,
Yeah.
and every day you have to stock it and sponges.
Luckily, sponges are
Seashore.
really light to carry.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about the sponge
So we had a
business.
little retail operation at the Grove in LA.
Yeah.
And that's where she knew a lot of stars. But like I said, it was just revenue.
You know,
So anyway.
but to me, what I loved about it is when I saw you come back, I saw you working. You're back to you're doing your construction, your building, your development, and I had to find out. I was so curious because I was looking for something because I felt lost because I was looking for something passionate, and I was doing my healing business, but it was brand new, and I needed to do something else to bring in revenue, just like you had to figure out what you were going to do to bring in revenue. And I saw you and. Your face lit up when I mentioned the sponges. And I'm like, whoa. And I was like, I want to know more because this is intriguing and you're an urban legend. So
It wasn't like I was trying to sell a franchise. It was
No.
I just over hanging out with you and Ray and just telling you what I'm doing. And
yeah.
then, you probably said, hey, is there something I can, yeah.
Well, I said I was interested. I go, can I do this with
Yeah,
you? Can I
yeah.
do something? And it was funny because I remember starting out and you would be giving me my product stuff and I'd be calling you every 5 minutes. I need more. I've sold all of it. Got to have more. And finally you just said, okay, I'm done with this. Here, you call.
Yeah, no, I greased all the wheels so you can continue
Yeah.
to get the product. Because at some point I wasn't able to I got tired of
Processing
And don't get me wrong, this town in Florida, if you
Yeah.
think you're selling sponges here and Carrie was selling sponges in LA, this whole town is like the wharf in San Francisco. You go down the street and in this little Greek community and the boats are right here on the river and everybody has a curio shop.
Yeah.
Is rubber alligators and Greek this and sponges
It's all
and
Greek
soap
to me.
and
All Greek.
Greek, all kinds of stuff, but everybody's selling sponge. You got 30 people selling sponges.
Well, and
Not
once
just
you-
one. There's 30 people selling sponges, and they're all getting them from their cousin or
Yeah.
whatever, the boat. So the whole town, with the industry changed when they invented synthetic sponges, then the industry
By the
kind of
way,
died.
don't buy a synthetic sponge.
Yeah.
They're actually bacteria ridden
So
within
the-
5 minutes and they don't disintegrate in the ground and the earth.
So the town became a tourist town.
Yeah.
It became a tourist industry. The sponge became the
thing.
This is what this town was known for, the sponge industry. Because as soon as they invented synthetic ones, it was cheaper and
Yeah,
easier to
people
use.
forgot about the sea
You
sponges.
use it, throw it away. Use it, throw it away. And it was like some people don't even know what a sea sponge is.
Well, you know what's sad
right?
is
The people
this,
from Europe, they do.
they do. The Europeans only use mostly sea
Right.
sponges. The bad thing is, and I'm not commenting on the synthetic industry, but the synthetic sponges really don't disintegrate in the earth.
Yeah, well, they're made to throw away.
They're made to throw away, but
Yeah,
they
they're
stay.
cheap.
They don't
Yeah,
go away.
Yeah.
So if
So
you want to
the-
be natural, buy a sea sponge. We have a company for you.
So the sea sponge. So that's what it was. So it was all about that whole town. So you're trying to compete with no one at the farm, but when you got 30 people selling sponges.
That would be hard.
Oh yeah.
I love being here because I was a unique individual in a farmer's market. No one was selling sea
Right.
sponges.
Same thing.
And I educated them on it. I told them what to use it for. And I found so many uses for a sea sponge. And my funniest thing is people go, how did you get in this? I go, I have a sponge, John.
Yeah.
So it was always, I met a Greek guy.
So
I
anyway,
always
so
make fun doing it.
you just got to be passionate about what you do in life. And it was at that point.
Yeah.
There wasn't a real estate. That career was over.
Yeah.
And I was in the sponge business, whether it was going to be a big business or a small business. That was what we were in. We were in that, and it wasn't like we were making millions of dollars at all.
But you
Nothing at all.
shifted when you had to shift because you needed to make money. You found something you were passionate about, and I bet you had fun along the way.
Yeah, I did. I had fun. And I was,
Yeah.
like I said, processing them, and my mom and dad's, I'm there driving around. It was a lot of work, but
Yeah, it's not a clean business to be in if you are a diver. Mike Rowe did a show on
yeah.
dirtiest jobs, and Sea Sponge was one of the dirtiest, he said.
It's bad. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough. It's a tough business.
Well, I would never, if people go, did you dive for these? I'm like, do I look like a diver? No, I don't think
That's
so.
rough. It's tough. I mean, it's a tough life.
Well,
Being a sponge diver.
it is, but I just, the business itself has so much opportunity. So what I did with it, once you kind of educated me and taught me, I added more products I thought went with the line with it, like, my recycled plastic soap holders, soap lifts they're called.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I found things to add, dryer balls, and like you were doing, shark's teeth.
I remember those dryer balls. and
Yeah,
stuff.
they were
Yeah,
selling
remember
like
those?
crazy. They're
Yeah,
still
yeah.
in my
I remember
dryer
those.
ball gal. Well, I ended up selling the business. John,
Oh.
I don't know. I told John last week, this what started this podcast, is I ended up selling my business, Carmel Del Mar, because my other business, Carm, Heart to Heart Medium, is so busy I can't give any energy to it. And if energy doesn't go where it needs to go, it's not going to have anything happen. So I sold it to Sarah Grant from Essential Wellness, and she's going to keep moving Carmel Del Mar forward. Same name, same .com. But without you, that was one of my favorite 7 years of my life, selling those sponges, until I couldn't put up a 10 anymore because my arm I have issues with I have a torn labrum and stuff. So it was just not going to work for me anymore. So I had to recognize that and shift again and look for the right person. And Sarah was the right person. But what did you learn on all this, like the shifts and jives of what you have to do in business, in being resilient, meaning that you have to constantly look at what's ahead. You're a forecaster, I believe.
I try to have a version of a crystal ball here and now.
Well, you're
and then.
intuitive. You're
like right
intuitive
now.
in your own business, don't you think?
Pardon me?
You're intuitive, meaning that you
Oh.
you understand the intuition of your business, when you need to sell and when you need not to sell, and what to hold, what to keep. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. In the real estate business, you gotta, like right now, there's some times are changing a little bit.
What do you see going on in the real estate business? Just out of curiosity, what's your take on it?
I just see a little bit of trouble ahead. Nothing that I haven't seen, or
Yeah.
when you've been in it 30 plus years, you've been through a few of these cycles. So what you don't want to do, you want to be the death
It's
cycle.
stuck.
I don't want to be back to selling sponges. Let's just put it that way.
Well-
If I had to, would I do it? Yeah, I'd probably do it again if I had to. But I'm saying, so right now, where we're at with the real estate industry, and I got my son in the business now. So now you don't want him to have a downturn. You don't want anybody to
Well,
do.
you can't stop not having a downturn, but you teach him
you
how to be
can't.
the resilient person.
You just
And
try to be
you be
diverse, a
smarter.
little more diverse.
Maybe a little smarter too.
Yeah. And back then, when I was doing the real estate stuff, it was pretty much I was all in.
Yeah.
It was like,
Too
too
You
far.
wouldn't do that again.
No.
That was a life lesson.
Yeah.
I think the same thing I think Ray would say too, because really what I say about that time was, it was really hard to go broke, and we lost our house too, and we lost, like, luckily my family was healthy, we were healthy, but it was scary because you didn't have income coming in, and what do you do? And my biggest thing was I was looking for opportunity and looking for a chance and a purpose. And without going broke, I wouldn't have found who I really was. And my real gifts are intuition, mediumship, and I'm always been a great salesperson. If I believe in something, I can sell it to you because I will explain it to you and why you need it.
Yeah.
Don't
But
you
I'm
think?
saying, so the reason I came here was when I met Ray, because the real estate market took a dive.
Yeah, in
So
Sacramento.
so it took a dive here in Colorado Springs in a big way. So it was opportunity,
Well,
right? So the thing is, when I got here in '93 to buy what we ended up buying here in town with what little cash we had and moved here, it's because the market went through a downturn,
and it was
and it's
coming back up.
opportunity for me. And I bought a piece of property somebody else lost,
Yeah.
right? So it just changing
It's like a
fortunes, right?
cyclical.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
now then I went through it and someone bought my project back at a third of the price that I lost to the bank because of what happened. And
kinda
part
karmic in a
It's
weird
part of
way.
the governmental process and what happened in the 80s and let it happen again. So now you think, oh, could it happen again? And you tried, it could happen again. There's
Well,
a lot-
I don't
there's-
know if
there's
it's
not
going to go like it did in 2000. I don't feel that, to be honest, but I feel like
Yeah.
it's going to slow down a lot.
Yeah, that's
What I
fine.
have to laugh is how we got here, how you got here, how Ray got here. Was my sister lived here in town.
That's
She
right.
was a military wife, Air Force, and I came to visit her with my family, with Ray and the kids. And Ray, kind of likes to look around town because he's always looking for opportunity. And he was kind of in the doghouse that weekend for some unknown reason we won't talk about. And the funny thing was, but he found projects here, and he was tied to the
Yeah.
Greek community investment wise. And they ended up buying, he tied up properties, and he was commuting. And I'm like, I'm not commuting. We're not doing this commuting thing. So one town, one city, and guess what we're doing? We're moving to Colorado Springs because I already knew we were supposed to move there. I felt that when I was 17. I had come here and saw it, and I go, I'm going to be back
Oh, wow.
to live.
I didn't know that.
So without my sister, we wouldn't be talking today.
No.
Or maybe we would be, but I don't know if
No,
we'd be doing
I
a
had
podcast.
I had no idea I would be living here. And I thought if I did come here, when I did end up buying some real estate, hey, we're going to be here 4 or 5 years, Carrie. We're going to come to Colorado Springs. We're going to build some houses. We're going to go back to Sacramento.
Yeah.
We're going to come in here,
Yeah.
make some money, do these 4 or 5 projects, do 4 or 5
And then go
projects.
home.
We're going to be here 4 or 5 years and go back.
Yeah.
And then 20, 30 years later, you're still here.
Well, you know what makes me laugh
know?
is because Ray always said, like, I told Ray when I felt we should be here because I liked it so much better. And they were shooting up in Sacramento at the time. My kids were like 1 and 2 or 3. They were shooting at the little Sayufi movie center at 10 in the morning down the street showing Sleeping Beauty. They were having drive-by shootings. And I'm like,
Really?
I'm out of Sacramento. So I told him, I go, we're going to move here and we'll have your family come and visit anytime they want. That was the deal. And he always thought he'd move back in 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And he still regrets he hasn't moved back, but I don't know if he'd move back now. I love Colorado Springs. It is home for me. I will never go.
Yeah.
I will always have a foothold here in Colorado Springs and living.
Yeah.
It's my favorite place.
Yeah, it's a good place. That's how it happened. So anyway, so it does. It goes full circle. So now after the sponge industry kind of filled the void, financial void, and like I said, so now I'm back to home building. And hopefully, I
think you've
can
done
finish
okay.
strong.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you're going to. I feel. Are you going to plan on going to Florida and retire maybe a little
Yeah,
bit?
maybe a little bit. Huh?
I see you boating down there. I know you got that affinity.
I got
for-
friends down in Florida, so I was going to hang out down there. But so yeah, now I'm just going to.
I have to say, John, that without being open to looking for something new and not letting the story tell your life, but letting you create your own story. I mean, I got to tell you, I got to thank you for what you did for me because you educated me and allowed me to be in the crazy sponge business, which I still adore. And I had my little bit of my heart hurt, but at the same point, I knew it was time for me to move on, and that's what I listened to was here.
Yeah.
So it's like I want to give you a toast.
Okay.
So
here we go.
we got to do a little
Here we
toast.
go.
What do Greeks say
To
in the
sponge
toast?
business. See ya. See ya.
Yeah, say yeah.
See ya.
Say yeah.
See ya.
Okay, cheers.
Opa. He's like, opa.
Ropa. I need a plate to
Opa,
break.
opa.
Opa.
Opa. That's great.
So thank
right.
you. I got to say that I really admire you because you've always been resilient. You're always fun to talk to. You and Ray have always had a great working relationship and a respectful relationship. You guys kind of play off each other.
Mm-hmm.
And without you, I wouldn't be done Carmel Del Mar. I wouldn't be here. And it was a successful business for me. But when I didn't put enough energy into it,
Yeah.
it wasn't gonna thrive. And I
Just a
wanted to
unique
thrive.
industry. It's a unique business. And like I say, even the friends I told when I was back in Florida, they're like, "What are you doing? What?"
What?
I'm buying sponges from Cantonas. I'm buying from Acme. I'm buying.
Yeah.
I'm getting sponge. I'm in the sponge business. And then my friends are like, "Why would you be in the sponge business? Everybody down here is selling
Urban
sponges."
legend. You were the urban
I
legend.
go, "Hey, Louie, I'm selling sponges in L.A. I'm not selling sponges in Tarpon with 30 other people in
No,
Tarpon
thank
Springs.
you.
I'm taking these sponges. I'm selling them in Malibu and in Calabasas, and I'm in L.A. and in San
Yeah.
Diego.
Well-
I'm selling sponges out there."
Well, you know what's funny is
And,
that you find where you can be unique. And I like being unique. That is the biggest thing. I want everybody to find their unique path.
Yeah.
And you found where to go.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's kind of worked out that way.
Well, you know,
But,
John, I think you're going to do great no matter what happens in the real estate industry. I think you live a charmed life in some ways.
Yeah,
Would you agree
I've been
with
through a
that?
bunch. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's been challenging. I wouldn't want anybody to have my life to do what I went through. Not everybody can do it. A lot
You're
of people can't
resilient.
make. A lot of people
what
that
made
I've
you
met.
different? What made you different than the
I
other
don't know.
people?
I think I don't know if I have
Personality?
brain damage or whatever. It's almost like some people can't take the downfall.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Ego.
there's some of our friends that can't come and make it back to be successful again. Whatever is saying, whatever. Hey, I lost everything. Okay, you gotta go back.
You gotta go back.
I remember having zero. You only hit zero. Zero is zero.
Once.
Yeah, so you hit zero and you're back. It's the only way to go up.
One go up.
So not everybody can, and to do what I did, not everybody. It was very physical. It was very challenging, but I wouldn't want anybody to go what I had to go through.
Well, I have to say something.
Even the home remodeling wasn't any fun.
Oh no.
I mean,
no.
I was doing fix and flips. It was underneath houses,
Oh.
jacking them up, fixing floor joists.
Oh,
I wasn't
my
like
God.
I was a builder again.
No,
I was
you were
underneath
doing the dirty
houses,
work.
tearing out stuff and doing fix and flips. I mean, we went from being, building 150 units to doing a fix and flip here and there. It was challenging. Then back to the sponges. I mean, the stuff I had to go through. And then you catch a break and you get opportunity. Yeah. It's opportunity, and all of a sudden an opportunity came up, and some friends of mine, hey, we want to do more of these houses, and you raise a little money, and you get a little momentum, and you buy this and you buy that, and you have the know-how to go back to doing it. Now you just need
better know-how too.
Yeah.
Better know-how.
Yeah, so not everybody knew how to be a builder, be a developer, whatever. Yeah, I was selling sponges because it was easy, but I knew the industry, but there was nothing. There was no industry.
We know it's interesting. Ray said something somebody told him when we went broke. And when he went broke, it was really hard for a guy to go broke. It's hard as, it's ego level, it's ego and everything else. But the other thing the guy reminded him of, because he had gone broke too as a developer. Almost all developers do it sooner or later. He said, no one can take your mind and your experience away from you. You still have that.
Yeah.
And that's what gives you the edge to be successful again.
Yeah.
What great advice.
No, it's true.
And I mean, honestly, it's taken a long time, and it was hard to watch him go through that too. Yeah. So I understand.
You just got to wait. You wait your turn, and the opportunity shows up again, and you have the know-how.
Yeah,
it's just
can't take your mind.
And like I said, it's not like people were going to hire. You're 55 years old. It wasn't like I could go get a job.
Well, I tried to do it at 48, and I was always disqualified because you're like, you haven't worked in 20 years because you're raising what kids? Oh, yeah. And I did division or Class A office building management, leasing and property management.
That's right.
Yeah, so I understood it well, but the problem was I hadn't kept up my, my certifications because I was a mom. That was my identity, and I was very happy to do that because I think that's one of the most important jobs you have in your life is being a mom. Yeah. Probably wasn't the best perfect mom, but I have really great kids. All three of them are great kids.
So the challenge for me is, what's going to be my last deal? What's going to be my last deal? What's going to be my last project? What's going to be the last house? I remember the first house I built, but when's it going to be the last house I'm going to build? So think about that. So I remember the first house I built in Sacramento. Yeah. Like when, you build 500, 600, 700 houses or whatever, townhomes and condos. That first house
is always that amazing.
When is it going to be the last one? So you just don't know. That's part of life. You don't know. Hopefully you have a choice to say, this is my last project and this is it. I'm done.
I don't feel you're ever going to have your finger out of some business deal because I don't think your mind can sit.
Yeah.
You're not going to be fishing on a boat.
At some point you say, hey,
I'll bring up something I think is interesting. I am grateful for and this is hard to say, but my kids lived a really privileged life. And I'm sure Costa did too, because I know we grew up in the same neighborhood. It was the best thing that happened to my kids, and to bring back reality of, their struggle in life. Oh. And I think my son has benefited. I think both my daughters have learned to be hard workers. They're really good workers. Yeah. And they all know the value of a dollar. They became thrift shoppers and we're the best thrift shoppers I've ever seen. So that was another benefit. There's always benefits in going, having.
I think Costa's he's been on the job sites from day one. Costa, yeah, 1.5.
I remember him riding his little bike, and he was this big old
tractors
kid.
and tractors, and then he went through that. And like I said, he's seen me go all through all these projects and all these houses and the big houses we built and the ones we lost and all of that.
What would you say? What is your most sage advice to Costa being a business as he's going into the business? Do you have something to say?
My advice?
Best advice.
To be patient.
Okay.
That's my problem. I wasn't patient. I didn't have any patience. To be patient. You want it done now. I say just be patient. He doesn't have the appetite for risk. I mean, I grew up with risk, and I'm a gambler, and I'm a gambler today. and I'm just a gambler, and you risk, and that's so. A lot
That's
of people
true.
say they don't have the aptitude or the appetite for risk
Well, really, and I
because they
think
don't want to go broke.
well, developers are risk takers.
Yeah.
Most 90% of the successful developers are
Yeah.
risk takers.
Right, and that's just it. And so risk is gambling is risk, and some are gamblers in the sense of the word. So
The
with
truest
him,
sense of the word.
with
yeah.
him, I try not, don't do what I did.
Well, I know why my man was in the doghouse that weekend because he had a little gambling spree.
really?
And I'm like, what?
Yeah, I'm a gambler.
But he doesn't gamble anymore because he
Yeah.
doesn't need to because his nerve system, he said, is shot for that.
Yeah.
So his risk is his business.
So I just tell my son to be patient, and
Yeah.
he's been around a lot. He knows he's really smart. So hopefully
Good-looking kid, too,
He's a
so-
good-looking kid.
is he
He's
still
smart,
single?
and he's been around a lot of wealthy people. Yeah,
Is
He's
he
married.
still single?
No, he's married. He got married.
He got married?
a couple of years ago. Yeah,
No
a year,
way.
Yeah, a year and a half.
I
ago.
had no idea.
I know. He just during COVID, he just got married.
Oh my gosh.
Just
Do you
like
love
that.
the wife? I bet you do.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy for him.
Yeah.
Any grandkids?
Nothing yet. No.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez, that was news.
So he's in town. He had moved back.
He's
His
a nice
story.
young man.
But we thought when he was in Denver, he was in Boulder going to college.
Yeah, go Boulder.
And
so
he
did
moved,
Kat.
I don't know if I told you this, but anyway, he met this girl.
Yeah.
And they were.
I
and
know
he
this
worked-
story.
He worked for a builder. She worked for a
Yeah.
builder. They were both doing custom homes in Boulder. I mean,
Yeah.
$8-9 million homes, and I'm here doing a little fix and flips. I'm like, you got a job? Someone's paying you to go and stay up there, have a
Yeah.
job. And then they moved to Michigan. Her family was from Michigan.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I've told that story.
Yeah,
but
I do know
anyway,
that- I do know
so,
the story.
Yeah, so anyway, he went back to Michigan. I said, I'm not going to see him again because her family was tied to all this wealth. And
He
story in
decided-
itself.
Yeah.
But you figure, hey, no one's going to leave that situation, which is fine. You meet who you meet in life and whatever. And he's back in Grand Rapids working. And next thing you know, he's like, hey, it's not working out. It didn't work out for me, the relationship. He wasn't ready to get married then. So he just moved back. Whatever.
Wow.
And to move back from where he was and that family and where he went
all the
over,
wealth
all over the
and then
world.
come back to normalcy.
Yeah,
I
I
call it
love-
normalcy, whatever
Yeah, I
normalcy
mean,
is.
so I think it's
Normal.
part of his story.
His spiritual, I call it a spiritual journey.
Yeah.
So I was telling you what I do, and you're like, whoa. I feel that everybody has challenges in lifetimes, and we come into this lifetime for a challenge. And maybe yours was just to learn patience
So
and to
I
go
just-
through some hard times and to come back resilient again.
Yeah. So I just don't want him. I want him to learn as much as he can from me.
Yeah.
Don't make the mistakes I made.
Be smarter.
Yeah. Hey, Costa,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that's a mistake. Don't make that. That's a mistake. Let me, learn.
I think he'll learn. He's a
Yeah.
good kid. He's a really good kid.
Yeah, we butt heads all the time, but he's, hey, Dad, you're right. Hey, Dad, you're right. I mean, of course I'm right because I made that mistake 10 times. I made that mistake. You don't need to make the same mistakes I made.
Well,
But
you know,
that's how it is in the business.
well, and John, thank you so much. I really, really, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, and that's why I get. So what I would do is to thank him is I could afford a bottle of tequila. So
There you go.
this is John's bottle of
you.
tequila. That
That's
was
what-
always my once a year gift to you to
That's
say
my,
thank
that's
you.
my payment.
Yeah, and I just want you to enjoy yourself. I think, you know what? Figure out when you're done.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
I don't know.
I'll let you know. I'll let
You're
you
always
know.
going to have your finger a little bit in the pot because your
Something,
mind has to
yeah,
have that.
something. There's always there's too much opportunity out there, but pretty soon,
Yeah.
like I said, but I'm
Just
enjoying it.
you enjoy yourself along the way.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm going to say thank you to John. I think this is going to be a really fun podcast people will be listening
hope
to.
so.
And if you do want sea sponges, Carmel Del Mar seasponges.com. And I could go on, but I won't. But it's a great business, and Sarah is now selling it. So, John, thank you again, and muchas
Okay.
gracias from my
Okay.
Spanish side. And thank you. I'm glad you're the fly on the wall today. I was a fly on the wall, but kind of, I guess. And adios. We're done.
Okay. Thank you.